Hey everybody, welcome back. Johnny B here with devslopes.com, and in this lesson we are completing the third stage of creating a user. We've already done the register user, login user, where we get the auth token, and now we're going to be using that auth token to do the third stage, which is to actually create the user, okay? So to get started, let's go ahead and check out Postman and see what we're going to be working with. All right, so first off, if we look in headers, we have something new. We have an authorization header. Okay, so this is where we include the auth token inside the header of our HTTP request, because this particular route, which is what they're called in the API, the endpoint user/add, is locked down, meaning that unless this HTTP request has an authorization header with a valid auth token, it won't get through the guards that are on the API. It will kick it back with an unauthorized request error. Okay, so that's the first thing that's different that we're going to need to account for in Xcode. The next thing is that our body is a little bit bigger. So we have a name. So this is the username of the users that is displayed next to in the messages in the chat window. We have the email. We are passing an avatar name. So this corresponds to the type of avatar asset that they have selected. And then the avatar color, which right here is just a string called hex value. Doesn't really matter, but that's going to represent the RGB values that are randomly generated once we get to that point here in several lessons. All right, so these are the four things that we're going to need to worry about: name, email, avatar name, and avatar color. That's what we are passing as a body. And so if we go ahead and send this, we are also receiving some JSON data. And the data that we're going to be interested in getting is the avatar color, name, email, and name, but also this guy right here, the ID. All right, so we're going to need to take all that in stride. We're going to need to pass a body. We're going to need to receive a JSON data. And so we need somewhere to save all of this information for the user. So I'm thinking we create another service, and we're going to call that the user data service. Okay, so it's just going to be a Swift file. I'm going to call this user data service. I'm going to save that. And this is going to be a class called user data service. And it's going to be a singleton like our other auth service. And we're going to say static let instance equal to user data service. Okay. And then we're going to have in here the variables that we see here in Postman. So these 5 right here. And so we're going to say public private set var ID is equal to an empty string. And so before we move on, let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. What we're saying is we're going to create a public getter variable. So it's public in that other classes can read it, but other classes aren't allowed to set this variable directly. That's what this part here means, private set. So other classes are welcome to look at it and see it, but only this file is able to directly modify the value that ID is set to, okay? And that's just being good little programmers and encapsulating our data and protecting it from being unwantedly changed by other classes, all right? So now we're gonna say public private set var, and that's gonna be avatar color. And we're going to initialize that to an empty string. I'm just going to copy and paste this a few more times. All right, so then we also have avatar name. This one here is email, and this one here is name. And that should cover all 5 of these that we can expect to receive as a response from this API endpoint. All right, so that's good. But now we need a way to set these, right? Because we made these private sets. So we're going to create a nice little function here called set user data service. And let's just call it set user data. And we are going to need to pass into it, because what we're going to do is we're going to create an auth service, Alamo file request here in the auth service. and then we're going to parse out the JSON data that we receive, and then we are going to set the user data service properties to those values, okay? So we're going to need a function that we can call from other classes that will actually do the setting here. Okay, so we're going to say ID, this is going to be a string. I'm going to say avatar, actually let's just say color, and that's a string. We got avatar name, and that's a string. Then we got email, and that's a string. And then we have name, and that's a string. All right, so we're just setting up all of the variables that we're going to need to pass into this function so that we can set these guys right here, okay? So once we have this, let me just close this bottom pane. We're going to say self.id is equal to the ID that is passed into this function. Self.avatar color is equal to the color that is passed into this function. Self.avatar name is equal to the avatar name that is passed into this function. Self.email is equal to the email that is passed into this function. And self.name is equal to the name that is passed into this function. Whew. All right. So that is our user data service. And just because I have the advantage of having done this before, I also know that we are going to need a function to update the avatar name, okay? We'll just call that set avatar name, and we'll pass in an avatar name of type string. And with that, we are going to say self.avatar name is equal to the avatar name that is passed into it. Okay, so just something that we're going to use later on. All right, so let's go ahead and then jump into our authService.swift file and actually code up this add user function. So we are going to call it func create user, and we are going to be calling this from the create account screen. So we are going to need to pass in to this function several variables. We're going to need to get the name. We're going to need the email, which is a string. We're going to need the avatar name, which is a string. We're going to need to, I'm going to close this right-hand pane over here. We're going to need to know the avatar color, which is also a string. And then we are going to need our completion handler, like usual, and put in our escaping and completion handler. There we go. Alrighty. So, like usual, we're just going to lowercase our email. Let lowercase, I'm just going to copy from up here, actually. Here we go. And then we're going to need a body, so I'm going to copy this one here. This body's a little bit longer, right? Let's go ahead and run back to Postman and see what we need. We need name, email, avatar name, and avatar color. All right, so we have, just going to cut that, put that right here, change it to name, and this is going to be name. Email is the lowercase email. Then we're going to need avatar name, and that's going to be the avatar name. And then avatar color, and that is avatar color. And I'm just going to double check that these all match up. Name, email, that make sure that the spelling is correct. Avatar name, avatar color, avatar name, avatar color. All right, so the body looks good. Oh, I need a comma here. There we go. Next up, we need a header. And remember, like we were just looking in Postman, this time our header is a little bit different. We have an extra key value pair with the authorization header and the bearer token. Okay, so easy enough. We've already created a bearer or a header before, so let's just say let header is equal to, and this time the key is called authorization, spelled that very wrong. Authorization. All right, and the value is capital bearer, B-E-A-R-E-R, and then you have to have a space. And then what comes after that is the auth token. So we're going to do some string interpolation and say auth service dot instance dot auth token. Okay, and then we have still our other one, which is the content. You know what? I'm going to copy this from the constants because it's kind of a pain to write out. Right here. There we go. Got that. And there we go. There is our second key value pair. So now this header with the authorization and bearer and the content type looks just like the one that we have here. So perfect. All right, so now we have our body, we have our header. Let's go ahead and craft out our Alamo Fire request. All right, so we are going to say Alamo Fire.request and pick this guy here that we've been using with all of our fancy upgrade options that we can use. It's like getting the car with all of the options. All right, so this is a fancy web request. We're gonna say, oh, we haven't created the URL yet. So let's jump over to constants. Where you at? Constants. All right, so this is going to be called let URL user underscore add. And this is going to be similar to our other ones, but instead of login, it's user/add. All right, so that's good. Gonna save that, copy this constant, and jump back into auth service, and paste that right here for the URL. All right, and then the method is still .post, I believe. Let's double check that. Yep, .post. The parameters is body. The encoding is JSON encoding.default. The headers is header. And the response type is response JSON, because we want the response that the HTTP request returns to us in the form of JSON. And then I'm going to press return on the completion, on the closure, and I'm going to rename that to be response. I'm going to get rid of this code placeholder. And then, like we've been doing, we're going to say if response dot result, if response dot result dot error is nil, then we're going to do some stuff. Else, we are going to say completion is false, and we are going to debug print the error. So response dot result dot error as any. Okay, there we go. But if it is successful, what are we going to do? We are going to get our response JSON right here, and we are going to parse it out and set it set those properties equal to the properties, the corresponding properties in our user data service that we just created. All right. So let's go ahead and do that, just like we did with our register or our login user. We are going to get back some data. We're going to turn that data into a JSON object and then parse it out from there. So I'm going to say guard let JSON equal. We're going to say guard let data equal response dot data else return. Then with that data, we're going to create a JSON object using Swifty JSON. So we're going to say let JSON equal JSON. And then we're going to do an initializer. And let's see, I wish it would show up here. Right here, JSON data. There we go. And the data that we want is right here, data. All right, so now all we got to do is create some variables that we can then pass into our function that we created here, set user data. All right, so we're going to say let ID equal JSON, and then we're going to drill into the JSON and find it by its key, which is underscore ID. As you can see here in Postman, underscore ID is its key. And we're going to say dot string value. So we're going to unwrap that, and if it doesn't exist, it's not going to crash because Swifty JSON handles that for us. All it's going to do is set ID equal to an empty string, which is just fine for us. All right, so then we're going to say let color equal JSON, and that key is avatar color. And we're going to say dot string value. Then we're going to say let avatar name equal JSON, and that is going to be avatar name dot string value. Then the email, we're going to say let email equal JSON, and its key is called email dot string value. And then we're going to say let name equal JSON, where its key is name dot string value. Whew. All right, so there are the 5 variables that we want that come as a response in this API call. Then what are we going to do with these? Well, we're going to call user data service dot instance dot set user data ID, and we're going to pass in those that we just created. So ID, color, avatar, name, oh come on, email, and name. All right, there we go. So I'm going to build that and then say completion is true. All right, I'm going to save that, and let's see if these errors go away here. All right, yeah, so these errors went away, and yeah, that's the whole create user function. So just to run over one more time what is happening, we are calling a create user function that will be called in our create account VC. We are passing into that function a name, email, avatar name, and avatar color. We have a body that is being sent in this HTTP request. We have a header that is also being sent with the HTTP request, but this time we have an authorization header. So that's kind of new and exciting. Then we're creating the request here. We are sending it to a specific URL that we know. It's a post. We're sending the body and the headers, and we're getting response. We're getting JSON as a response, and then we are parsing out the response and setting those values equal to their corresponding properties in our user data service, which we can then use throughout the rest of the app. All right, so some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, let's see if it works. We're gonna have to jump into our create account VC now, and instead of printing out this, what we are going to do is call authService.instance.create user, and we are going to, we haven't gotten the name yet actually. That's from this guy right here. So we're just going to do the same thing that we did here. So I'm going to say guardlet name equal, this is going to be username, username text.text and username text.text. All right, so now we have a name variable. So I'm going to just pop that in right here, name. Email we still already had. And then here we need a couple of variables, all right, that we're going to keep track of the avatar name and color. All right, so right now, for now, we're just going to create a couple of variables, default variables. So we're going to be able to give the user the option to select a avatar image and an avatar background color. If they don't choose to, then we're going to have a supplied default image, right? All right, so that's going to be called avatar name, and the default is just profile default. And that's actually, if you go look at your assets, that's the name of this guy right here. So that's our default profile image if the user does not pick one for themselves. All right, so with that created, we can set that here for the avatar name. So avatar name, and then we need also a default avatar color. And this is gonna look a little bit strange to you right now, perhaps, but what this is it's a string array of the red, green, blue, alpha properties of a color. All right. The default, we're just going to put 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and 1. And this just gives a default light gray color. Okay. And we'll talk more about this here in a bit, and what how this is handled later on. Okay. But for now, we can put in the avatar name and the avatar color, just so that we have values to put in there. And then for our completion handler, I'm going to press return. Here for the bool, I'm going to rename it to success. And then in the code, just going to get rid of that, and we're going to say if success. Looks like we got a problem here. Oh, we need self because we are in a closure. So I'm going to say self.avatar name and self.avatar color. All right, there we go. That should get rid of that error. And if success, what can we do? Well, this is the end of the 3 stages. So at this point, what we want to do is say self.perform segue with identifier unwind, because we have gone through the 3 stages. We've registered a user, logged it in, and created that user. So at that point, we would dismiss the create account view, and then go through the process of updating the UI, pulling down the channels, updating the chat VC, and all of that kind of stuff. All right. But for now, all we're going to be doing is just dismissing it. And let's go ahead and let's print some stuff just to also make sure that we're saving correctly to our user data service. So let's print out user data service dot instance dot let's say name, and then user data service dot instance dot avatar name as well. All right, so we're going to save this and run it, and I think that should be it. I don't think we're forgetting anything. All right, so here we go. The big test. Log in. I don't have an account. Sign up now. All right, so here we go. We're going to give this a name. We're going to call this Johnny Ads User. What a cool name, right? All right, email. Let's go with x@x.com. Password is 123456. So here we go. When I create this account, just to when I click on this, just to run through one more time, we are sending this username, this email, and this password into this function right here, create account pressed, which then goes through the 3 phases that we've created: the register the user, the login the user, and this latest one, the create user. All right, at which point it should dismiss and print out a couple of things. All right, there we go. So we printed out the instance.name and the avatar name. I actually don't see the avatar name here. Let's see here, self.avatar name, profile default. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and check out over here in our auth service. Okay, I missed this, even though I thought I was double checking. Avatar name. So, but you'll see the value of this .string value. Instead of crashing, all it did was return an empty string, even though this did not exist. All right, well, what it was before, NA and E did not exist. So let's try that one more time. You guys probably saw that and were like, that's gonna crash, Johnny. All right, let's do this again. Login. Don't have an account. Johnny testing 2. Email y@y.com 123456, and here we go. All right, there we go. So we dismiss, we have our username and our avatar name. Let's go ahead and check out in Safari at MLab, and let's go ahead and go back to our database, chatty chat chat. And now, if this is the first time you're doing it, you should have, for the first time, some users right here. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. There it is, Johnny testing 2. So that's it, guys. We are through the process of creating a new user. We have registered users, we have logged in users, at which point we get the auth token, which allows us to access all of the other lockdown routes that the API provides. We created ourselves a nice user data service so that we can use these properties elsewhere in the app. And yeah, I mean, we're getting very close to being able to start sending messages, adding channels, seeing chats from other people. So hope you guys are really enjoying this and having fun. I know that I am. So before we sign off, I'm just going to go ahead and add our progress. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit dash m, and this is lesson 12. And I'm going to push this git push origin lesson dash 12. All right, I will see you all in the next one.